Hello, my friends. Good to see you again. This is 7 English Bible School. Thanks for joining us. And once again, your presence means a lot to me. God bless you and keep you.
You're going to have some deviation plus or minus a bit, but the numbers are real. We have well over 300,000 deaths. We're averaging 2,000 to 3,000 deaths per day. All you need to do, Chuck, is go into the trenches, go into the hospitals, go into the intensive care units, and see what is happening.
Instead of the recommended 21 days, Brits will now have to wait up to 12 weeks for the second shot. Pfizer warning the safety and efficacy of the new schedule has not been evaluated.
When you're doing things like administering vaccinations, you want to do it based on the science.
Chuck, it could and likely will get worse in the next couple of weeks, or at least maintain this very terribly high level of infections and deaths that we're seeing. And the reason is that, we're in that situation that we predicted a few weeks ago as you get into the holiday season and people have done a considerable amount of traveling. Rather than sit back and throw up our hands and say, oh my goodness, it's getting worse, we need to double down on some of the fundamental things that we talk about all the time, Chuck. The uniform wearing of masks, the physical distancing, and the avoiding of congregate settings and crowds, particularly indoors. We've just got to keep doing that. The numbers are real, Chuck. You're going to have some deviation plus or minus a bit, but the numbers are real. We have well over 300,000 deaths. We're averaging 2,000 to 3,000 deaths per day. All you need to do, Chuck, is go into the trenches, go into the hospitals, go into the intensive care units, and see what is happening.
The start of a year is often filled with hope, but for many public health officials, it's filled with dread. More than 77,000 people died in the United States in the month of December, more than October and November combined. And there is a new prediction tonight that January will be far worse. The vaccine rollout that should ultimately stop the surge is moving desperately slow. These are the long lines in the few states that are offering them to the general public.
More than 77,000 Americans died of COVID in December alone, the deadliest month so far. Across the country, field hospitals are now being put into place to help with the surge, as some researchers project 115,000 could die this month.
What people need to understand that some 15% of people who get COVID will end up in the hospital, and half of those people will probably die.
Spanning from Texas to Florida, seniors waiting in line for hours.
There was like people in front of me in their late 80s, and they could hardly walk, and they were sitting out there that whole time too.
And in Tennessee, the police actually had to turn people away.
Some of us are getting the car and put it along the curb and just sitting in the car to try to stay warm and not get tired.
Yet despite the desperation, the national figures for vaccinations are stunningly short of expectations. The federal government promised 20 million immunized by year's end, but a CDC dashboard shows more than 14 million doses distributed and fewer than 3 million vaccinations. A reality Utah Senator Mitt Romney calls inexcusable.
We have people who will die needlessly if we're not able to get vaccines out as quickly as humanly possible.
Around the world, the race to vaccinate is on. At the front of the pack, Israel, where 12% of the population already received their first dose. Israel now leads the world in vaccinations per capita, the U.S. in fourth place after Bahrain and the United Kingdom. Tonight, the British government is taking two controversial and untested steps to expand the rollout, announcing it will delay giving people a second dose of the Pfizer vaccine in an effort to get a first dose to as many people as possible. Instead of the recommended 21 days, Brits will now have to wait up to 12 weeks for the second shot. Pfizer warning the safety and efficacy of the new schedule has not been evaluated. Dr. Anthony Fauci making clear the U.S. won't follow suit.
Remember that when you're doing things like administering vaccinations, you want to do it based on the science.
Dr. Fauci, the president just tweeted that the number of deaths is far exaggerated, blaming the CDC's what he called ridiculous method of determination compared to other countries. Your response to that?
Well, the deaths are real deaths. I mean, all you need to do is to go out into the trenches, go to the hospitals, see what the healthcare workers are dealing with. They are under very stressed situations. In many areas of the country, the hospital beds are stretched. People are running out of beds, running out of trained personnel who are exhausted right now. That's real. That's not fake. That's real.